Hi everybody, welcome back to the Gallowgateshots YouTube channel and podcast. We're back with another match preview. After the 0-0 draw at the Emirates, we now focus on the FA Cup third round draw against Sheffield Wednesday. I'm Scott, I'm your host for this one, and this week I am joined by Daryl, Matty and Joe. We'll jump straight into this one. Well, before we do that, there is a little bit of housekeeping that I always have to let you know. And even in the cup games, we have a sponsor for this show, and that is Magpin. As we all know, the Gallowgateshots match preview is brought to you by Magpin badges. They are the go-to site for high-quality, unofficial enamel pin badges of Newcastle players, legends, and retro kits. They also do those nice little postcards, and I think they've also got a calendar on their website as well. If I know it's the 4th of January, but if you still haven't got your calendar for the year, maybe have a look at that. Anyway, their website is magpinbadges.bigcartel.com. So as I mentioned at the beginning, we are focusing on the FA Cup third round tie against Sheffield. It's this coming Saturday, the 7th of January, 2023. I got that right. Didn't say 22, Nelly. It's a 6 p.m. kickoff at Hillsborough, and it's on BBC One. We got selected by the Beeb. I think it's also on the iPlayer. So if you want to watch it with a massive delay, get on the iPlayer. But if not, put BBC One on. They're not doing too bad in the league of Sheffield Wednesday. They're currently sitting second in League One. I believe it's around 14 clean sheets. And Matty, you so nicely let me know that it's 17 games on the spin where they are unbeaten. Daryl, come to you first, mate. What are your confidence levels for this FA Cup? Obviously, giant killings are all the range in this game, but are we confident?
I think so, yeah. I mean, we've just come off that great point at Tyree, even DME, at the Emirates on Tuesday night. So, I think we should be all right going into this. Alexander Isak returned to training this week from what we know, which is fantastic. May even get a chance to see him again on Saturday. I think it'll depend on the team and how they are feeling generally in health about how much of them we'll see as the first team. Because of the opposition and depending on Eddie's mood, I think he wants to take the competition seriously. So whether or not it's a full-strength team remains to be seen. It's going to be an interesting game. I think he will probably mix it up a little bit, and there will be a couple of fringe players playing just to give some of the main lads a rest. Maybe even the return of Martin Dubravka in goal, perhaps. I mean, Sheffield Wednesday, as you've said, they're on a pretty decent run as it is. Probably a little bit too good for the league that they're in, and they have been since they went down. They've just narrowly missed out on promotion. I think that in the seasons that they've been in that division, and they're really taking it by storm this season. So it'll be interesting to see, two good teams, two teams on a good unbeaten run, should be in for a dandy.
Yeah, it should always be a good one. It's always a nice little trip down to Hillsborough. I believe, Daryl, you will be there.
I will, yeah.
It's an interesting one. Their top goal scorer, Matty, is Michael Smith. We were talking about him just before. Local lad to us.
Not the darts
8
player.
goals. Not the darts player, no.
Well, yeah. Well done, Bully Boy, by the way. Well done, Bully Boy.
If he can win the World Championship at darts and play for Sheffield, then hats off to him. Their second top goal scorer, I can't remember the guy's name, but he's on 7, and then it's like 4, and they seem to be getting goals from all over the pitch. Their front 3 seems to be a bit of a threat. Is that something we should be mindful of?
I think you should be mindful of any team, and I'm sure Eddie Howe will be. Any team that's putting together a run like Sheffield have. Like you just said, 17 games in 90 minutes. They're sort of undefeated. We appreciate they got beat on penalties to Southampton in the Cup, but they ran them close. But yeah, their front 3, Michael Smith, local lad, born in Wallsend. He scored goals for fun in that sort of level. I think he was at Rotherham recently before going to Sheffield Wednesday. And then you've got the likes of Josh Windass, famously Dean Windass's son. It was at Rangers and Wigan. He's not exactly a prolific goal scorer, but he's had a little purple patch. He scored a hat-trick at the weekend. And then you've got Callum Patterson, who we saw glimpses of in the Premier League when he was at Cardiff City, who signed him, I think, from Hearts, a sort of utility player who played midfield, defence, and then started getting shot up front like it was a five-a-side game and started scoring goals all of a sudden. So he's been sort of holding on to that. And, that front three, in these sort of games, you look at their attacking players because they're the ones that are going to hurt you. We should be causing them problems no matter who we put on the pitch because we're the Premier League side. They've got some, I think they've got like Palmer at the back. I mean, he's been playing there for umpteen amounts of years, experienced player and experienced defender. But yeah, you're right. Don't really look past their front three. If they all start, that could cause us some issues. But I'm fairly confident that we can keep them at bay. But you can't get overconfident in these sort of matters.
Absolutely, and as we mentioned, clubs love a giant killing in this competition, and we know firsthand with the games of years gone that giant killings are our forte in terms of being on the receiving end of them. They have a few injuries. It was quite hard to find this information out. That wasn't, a few weeks old, but I think their captain, Barry Bannon, is out, which is a big shame for them. I think they've also got a couple of centre-backs who are regulars who are also out. I can't remember the names, but they seem to be worrying about one or two of those. Joe, with their injuries to kind of their senior players, they're obviously wanting to go for this hell for leather. Is that something that, not saying we need to capitalise on, but is it something that we can, exploit and maybe, with our strike force, look to do some damage to Sheffield Wednesday?
Yeah, and to be honest, they're not the only ones who have a bit of an injury list. We've got the likes of, Shelby out, Dummett's out, who I believe played against Tranmere, and ASM's only just coming back as well. So we do have a few injuries of our own. And having said that, I do think that might actually force our hand a little bit to play a relatively strong side compared to what we probably would if everyone was fit. For instance, with Isak still coming back to fitness, obviously we'll have Wood up front. The midfield's an interesting one for us, actually, because with Shelby being out and honestly Willock looked absolutely knackered against Arsenal, I think that will be needing to start quite a strong midfield. So the likes of Longstaff and Joe Linton, probably Anderson in there as well, I reckon. He's had some minutes in the Cups and he's been on the bench recently. So I think this will be a great game for him. He's shown that he can turn it on at these, lower leagues. So I think it'll be a great game to get him involved. And like you say, it's definitely, with their injuries, it's definitely something that we can capitalise on, 100%.
Absolutely. Eddie Howe's already said he wants to take these cups seriously. So I think as strong as team as, maybe it's not as possible, but as we would, maybe more than what we'd like to see, will be nice. We'll turn our attention to Newcastle a little bit. There's a few players returning and a few players that could feature. I think we've already mentioned Isak, who is now back in full training. Matty, I'll come back to you. These two games coming up, because we also have obviously the Leicester game in the EFL Cup as well. I think is that midweek after this one, if I remember rightly?
Yeah, next
Tuesday.
Are these two games to get him back up to kind of match fitness and give him, minutes in the legs, or do you not risk him?
I think it's just going to be a sort of, through want of a better phrase, suck it and see sort of, stance, because I don't think he'll start. Definitely don't think he'll start. I think Wood will start that game. But if he's on the bench, they'll wait and see maybe what the sort of game's looking like. We're expecting a physical game. It's League One, no VAR. Yeah. You'll be getting a few kicks and a few naughty challenges in there. So I think if we're winning, then he might bring him on. If it's still a really tight game, then I think they might not risk him. But I think it is a good opportunity to start blooding him in again. But we'll just have to wait and see. Like you said, there's plenty of injuries, so it's whether you can really bring him in when there's going to be players doing jobs that they're not used to doing. I'm expecting, you're going to see the likes of, I think, Lascelles back in the centre half position, Manquillo, maybe Jamal Lewis. Let's not forget Jacob Murphy used to play for these lot. He was on loan there a couple of seasons ago. Was it last season? I can't remember. A couple of seasons ago, yeah. So it's going to be a bit of a Frankenstein's monster of a starting 11. I'm expecting, but if things are going well, why not bring Isak on? Because we can't wait to see what he can do when he's playing in an informed Newcastle side, because he didn't really get to play in one when he was there. We had that little weird patch where we obviously got beat off Liverpool, even though we played really well, and then the draws against Bournemouth and Palace. So I'd love to see him in a team that's flying.
Yeah, I think we might see a few of the youngsters maybe get a chance this week, and one who, maybe stands out that maybe he isn't quite ready because he has only just arrived in the country is Garang Kuol, who we are looking to loan out. But maybe, Daryl, this is an opportunity to maybe put him in a bit of a shop window for those who maybe haven't seen him in the Australian A-League. Do you think he'll feature at all, or do you think that's a non-starter?
I think, to be honest, it's probably a non-starter. I think Eddie really wants to just get him sent out on loan. Reading today that there's apparently been some interest from Hearts in Scotland to take him out on loan. And to be honest, it's really fallen to our benefit that he has been able to be granted his work permit to go out on loan in this country, because it means we could keep him close. So he could end up at like maybe Hearts, which is only an hour and a half away, could even end up down the road at Middlesbrough for all we know, or even again, maybe even just to give him a bit of a taste of this country, maybe even in Sheffield, maybe at Sheffield United or otherwise. So I think it's really good that he's got that option in the bank now with Garang Kuol. I mean, don't get us wrong, from what we've seen of him in the A-League, it would have been nice to probably see him on Saturday. But again, you know, Eddie knows best, and I've got to stick by his decisions.
Yeah, I think long gone are the days of we'll get a player in and then just instantly dropped in at the deep end in the first team without any kind of training or tactic awareness of what we're doing. So I think you're probably right. We probably won't see him. One player that we might see, and I think you've already mentioned this, Joe, is Martin Dubravka. Bit of a weird one this week. Apparently he asked to come back, and then apparently we've asked him to come back, and then it's turned out it was him in the end who didn't like sitting in that hotel room watching Manchester United on the TV and instead wanted to sit on our bench instead. Do you think we'll give him some minutes, given the fact he hasn't played much at Manchester?
Hey, we'll tell you what, a week is not a long time in football, is it? It wasn't just the Arsenal preview gone. I was telling you is that we'll probably won't see him in a Newcastle shirt again, and I'm about to tell you he's going to start on Saturday. Yeah, very strange one. But at the end of the day, he is if he's our player, he's our player, right? He is the second best keeper at the club. I think that's, no one can argue against that. Yeah, the way he exited to go to Man U and sort of his behaviour afterwards, bit of a sour taste, to be honest. Not the biggest fan, but at the end of the day, he's back. He's going to do a professional job. He's probably seen how well we're doing and thought, yeah, all right, I've probably made a bit of a mistake. Maybe the position that we're in is giving him a bit of a fighting spirit to actually try and push for a spot, and he may well stay. Having said that, I wouldn't be surprised if he also goes, but I do expect him to start on Saturday 100%. He's by far a good enough keeper to play in the third round of the FA Cup, and it'll give Pope a well-earned rest as well. He's come straight in since his return from the World Cup, and he's done some absolute heroics for us, and he deserves a bit of time off. Especially, I think, is with the Leicester game on Tuesday as well. This kind of makes it a bit of a no-brainer. Yeah. You're going to be resting near enough all, barring off a couple in the midfield, like I mentioned, like maybe like a Joe Linton or Longstaff. You're going to be resting the rest of them for Tuesday. So I fully expect to see him in goal on Saturday.
Just to play a bit of devil's advocate, and I'll pass this one to you, Matty. If you drop Dubravka straight in, what kind of message does that deliver to Carl Darlow?
I don't think we have all the information personally. I don't know. No. I mean, if it was Darlow's fit, he is fit. He's a good-looking boy. If we were to just drop Dubravka in over Darlow and Darlow is match ready, then yeah, maybe it does send a bit of a funny message, because he's been the one there training with the rest of the lads, and he did play in the Tranmere game, and he's played. I think that's the only game he's played, actually, the Tranmere game. But did he play the Tranmere game? Am I talking shit?
Yeah, he did. No, he did.
He did. Yeah, he did.
He didn't feature in the friendlies during the World Cup, though.
Yeah, exactly. So whether there's something we don't know, whether it's personal issues or whether it's an injury, like you say, he didn't feature in those warm-up games. So maybe there's something wrong, and if he comes in then Dubravka, then it's fine, because like Joe just said, he's the second best keeper at the club. But yeah, maybe if Darlow's fit, it doesn't send particularly the right message. But I think we all have full faith in Eddie Howe to handle these sort of situations properly. He's not one for just dropping players in who don't deserve to be there. As for the Dubravka thing, I've already said on the review last night, I'm not bothered. Sometimes you just fall out with people, don't you? He might be in the hotel, his phone rings, Eddie's ringing. He's like, I'm not going to answer your call. You got me out the team. And then he rings Eddie because he feels bad. Then Eddie's like, I'm not answering your phone. And they're just doing this sexy little dance around each other until he comes home and he goes, get yourself back in the team, son, to play Sheffield Wednesday. So I'm not overly too concerned. I'm actually quite excited to see him back in a Newcastle shirt, to be honest. I mean, I've always been a big fan of Martin Dubravka. Yeah, it was a bit of a nonsensical move to Man United, but it is what it is. It is what it is. He's come back now, and whether that's to, like you say, dangle a Dubravka-shaped carrot at someone like Leicester, whether it's just to have him as a number 2, either way, he'll be doing a service. So
absolutely,
yeah. And just to quickly say as well, he's already kind of done that by naming him straight on the bench against Arsenal, hasn't he?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and again, that's why I think we don't know if there's something wrong, or if because everyone I've heard said, it's because he doesn't fancy Karius. Well, then we're not really talking about Darlow then, and there must be a reason we're not talking about Darlow. There has to be. I mean, Mark Gillespie's there just to make up numbers and training, I'm sure. I'm sure he's a lovely lad. I know he's made a couple of appearances a few seasons ago, but I think there might be something we don't know about Darlow, but that's just me totally speculating.
Yeah, and we'll probably find more about that in Eddie Howe's press conference, because I'm sure one of the journalists will ask the question. I think they have to, because everyone's wondering. There's a lot of speculation. Even if Eddie Howe just comes out and says, look, this is the reason why, and this is what's going on, it'll just clear the air a bit, we all think. We'll find that, I'm guessing, on Friday. There'll be a press conference from Eddie Howe. Before that, we hopefully got out that Arsenal game unscathed. There was no injuries that we saw, although Fabian Schär picked up his obligatory head injury, I think twice in that game, which he just kind of, for such a good-looking bloke, he gets hit in the face quite a lot, which really surprises me. But the other player that I would expect to maybe see start is Alan St-Maximin. I think he's had a few bench appearances in this, especially if, we make the midfield of maybe, say, Joe Linton and Sean Longstaff and Elliot Anderson. That's then prime for St-Maximin to come in on that left-hand side and hopefully link up with Wood a bit better than they have been in the past. But I think he could do a bit of damage in this game. So I think you might see St-Maximin start. It's going to be an interesting one to see what the team will be, because obviously we have got that Leicester game, and there will be a preview for that coming up after the Sheffield Wednesday game. So we will be recording that and get that out before that game. So we'll hopefully be in the 4th round of the FA Cup, and then looking forward to the EFL Cup as well. We'll see what happens there. Right then,
Can I raise one thing before we go?
You absolutely can.
Are we not expecting to see Matt Ritchie play?
I was just going to say the same thing.
Yeah, I reckon we could see
drop that little angry man into the conversation.
Yeah.
But I just thought, with him coming on against who was it against? It was against Leicester. I just thought maybe he might think, I'll stick him in. He could still be League One level. We're not too sure. But I just think with all the injuries we've got, I'm just thinking I'm expecting Wood, Murphy, and Alan St-Maximin. That's what they're the 3 I'm expecting up front. But I'm just thinking in midfield whether the shape changes, because I don't know if he's going to risk Joe Linton, because he was feeling his calf quite a bit against Arsenal.
Yeah.
Will it look like his legs?
Who'd you have, though?
His legs. Well, Willock's legs look like they fell off. So I'm thinking Anderson, Longstaff, and another person. But then you wouldn't have Matt Ritchie centre mid, so it's a strange one.
Would you not play Matt Ritchie left back?
I would put him left back, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we'll see.
Because that would give you the option.
Matt Ritchie left back.
And then that would give you the option to put Dan Burn in with Lascelles in centre back.
I don't know what's happening to Matt Target, by the way.
He's got a heel injury.
He's got a heel injury.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, it's unknown return.
There's an echo in
he's being.
Yeah.
He's he's had for about a couple of months now, but it's just gotten worse. So, yeah.
He needs one of them egg peddy things on his feet. I think that's all it is.
My worry with whacking Saint in, though, real quick, sorry, is that I hop back to the Tranmere game, and the amount of injuries and the shit that got kicked out of us in that game. Is it worth risking Alan St-Maximin, who's not played too much in the last couple of months, especially when we've got the cup game coming? I do worry. It's the same argument with Isak, assuming that he's fit enough to make the bench. Is it worth risking these assets who are just coming back from injury for a game that, if you put Richie in and Wood in, they should do a job. So it's an interesting one. And like we've already talked about, the Leicester game throws an entire new dimension into the mix. So it'll be a really fascinating one to see what he does. You might even just give him half an hour.
Yeah.
You might also name an unchanged side. He has done that before and surprised us all.
Just screw it, go for it.
And just absolutely go for it.
Absolutely blitz them.
We've talked about this in the past on these match previews, and we've went, oh yeah, he's definitely going to make this change and do that change, and then it's like, nope. The strongest teammate in the field is going out there and playing in this cup. So we'll see what happens. I think with St. Maxim, he maybe is a little bit fitter than he was in the Tranmere game. He does seem to have a bit more to him in these games. He doesn't seem to be hobbling as much in the game that he's come on. Maybe he just hasn't had the challenges put in. Who knows? We will see, and we will see on Saturday. We'll come to predictions, lads, and I'll stick with you, Joe. What is your prediction for this one, if you can make one, because it's obviously entering the unknown with a team like Sheffield Wednesday to an extent?
2-0. Yeah.
Ooh.
I think, 2-0. I see a relative, I mean, like I said before, I see a relatively strong side. I expect Mankier to come in at right back. You might even keep Botman in the centre along with Lascelles. He did against Tranmere. And with, like I said, with the injuries we've got in midfield, it could force a hand to play quite a strong side. And we'll have options on the bench as well, I imagine. The thing is, we've played it a little bit risky with a couple of the League Cup matches. I'm thinking, obviously, like I said, Tranmere, Palace took the penalties. It doesn't take that many changes for us to look a little bit disjointed at times. So would he risk that for this game? I don't know. He might think he wants to play it a little bit safer this time around. So I think we'll feel quite a strong side, especially at the back. And I reckon we'll keep a clean sheet.
And I think that'll be a record one if we keep that clean sheet for Nick Pope. Is it 8 clean sheets? Or maybe more than that now. Sorry,
7 now.
Yeah. 7 in a row, 8 in a row. But yeah, it'll be fun to see. Matty, what is your prediction, mate?
Sheffield Wednesday are going to score. They're going to score 100%. Definitely going to score, but we're going to score more. So 2-3-1. I think they might score first. I just have this feeling. I have this feeling in my waters. But like Joe's just said, it's whether we change enough to be that disjointed team. We've seen it in the past when even we've been having good spells in the past, when it comes to a cup game, we make a load of changes. You can just tell it's not working. It seemed the same against sort of Bournemouth and Palace. If you make too many changes, it's because everyone knows their jobs in that starting 11. Things become a little bit disjointed. I'm still expecting 5 or 6 changes. I still think it might be 1 or 2 surprises, whether he keeps Trippier at right back or, like Joe said, Botman, or maybe a Gimaresh. I'm not too sure. For me, Tuesday's the big game. We could get this first League Cup semi-final since 1975, so that would be massive. However, we're playing lower league opposition, but they're in very good form. So it's a really big juggling, plate spinning act for Eddie Howe. But yeah, I think they're going to score, but we'll score more. 2-1. I'll go 2-1.
2-1. Excellent. Daryl, your predictions, mate?
Well, yeah, so it's interesting there listening to the guys talking about the squad, and it is going to be interesting. I'm just wondering how Eddie's going to play how he's going to play with squad rotation. Is he going to go in with the big boys early and then take them off after an hour to give them a rest ahead of Tuesday, or is he going to flip it around and do it and use them in an emergency? I think he might even go with the former, and I think we'll see quite a strong starting 11 to begin with. And I think, as Matty alluded to, I think we'll probably see Bruno start the game, maybe come off after an hour if things are going our way. I also agree with Matty, and I do think that they will probably score, because when you've got a front three as potent as theirs is at any level, they're going to cause a threat. And if we're going to go in there with a slightly weakened back four, shall we say, I think they're probably going to be good for a goal. And, there's going to be a very strong 4,000, I think, back in the Leppins Lane end at Tillsborough on Saturday, and I think we'll come out maybe 3-1 winners.
Yeah, I also think Sheffield Wednesday will score, given their current form and like I say, the goal scorers that they have at the moment. They seem to be knocking them in for fun. But I think the injuries that they've got in defence may hinder them a little bit, and I think we'll be able to exploit that. And it does all depend on who starts up front, and kind of how we play. Like you've said, I think the Palace game especially was probably, well, I didn't even get to see it, but Sky Sports News didn't show any highlights because there weren't. I mean, I think it was you and I, Matty.
No, there weren't.
Or maybe it was you and me and you, Daryl. One. It was just like, is the game even on? They're not showing anything. Why are we talking? And then you find out, oh, there's a reason for that, and it's because there was nothing actually happening. So I think if we change it too much, I don't think it'll be as bad, but we'll see what happens. I'm going to go for a 3-1 as well. I think, like I said, I think we'll get goals, but I don't think they'll score first. I think if they score first, that could be bad for the team, and I think it'll quieten the crowd and get the home crowd on my backs as well. So I personally think we'll be 2-0 up when they get one back, and then it'll make it a bit nervy, and then we'll finish them off in like the 80th minute or something like that. But we'll see what happens.
It's what the BBC would want, Scott. It's what the BBC would be wanting. It is.
And hey, you don't pay your license fee for a 0-0 draw, so we've got to have something a bit more than that. But we will see what happens this Saturday. Like I said, it's on BBC One and the iPlayer, which means I can actually get it in English commentary on terrestrial TV because we get BBC One over here, so it's really, really nice. And hopefully, I won't be behind everyone else on the WhatsApp group, so I'll be able to watch it without knowing what's going to happen, which is always nice to see. Does anybody have anything they want to add before we wrap this one up?
No, it's just really nice to be a Newcastle supporter at the moment. That's all I'm going to say.
It's been such a nice. Is it 4 months, 5 months?
Ask me again next weekend though, because I might hit it again. Because if we're out of both cups and got beat off Fulham, I'll be fuming. But
tell you what, I'm looking forward to a second cup run. We've had one cup run. It's coming towards an end on last weekend in February when the final is. And we're just starting another one now. So it's really nice. I'm looking forward to having an FA Cup run, hopefully. It's a great competition. And if we can get far in that, it'd be brilliant.
So to just finish on a question here, and I'll put this to each of you, what would be a success in this FA Cup if we were on to go into a cup run and not win the cup? What would be a success in your eyes? I'll leave it with you, Joe, for this one first.
I would. I think even the quarters would be a really good achievement. I can't remember I think was it only once or twice in the entire Ashley era we managed to get past the fourth round.
Yeah,
it's something along those lines. And so I don't think we can ask for too much this time round, but I think any kind of cup run would be brilliant. And the fact is, as well, we're going to be going into sort of the second half of the season if we, with this potential cup run, and a lot of teams around us will have other European competitions. So we're in that sort of unique position where we can afford to play stronger sides later on in the cup. And it obviously just gives us a really good chance of going far. So I would say anything up to the quarters would be brilliant. I can't really remember ever seeing a really good FA Cup run, and it's such a fantastic competition that gets overlooked too many times. So
it all depends on what happens on Tuesday for me. If we get through on Saturday and then we get through on Tuesday, for me the premise is I'm going on the season as a whole here, because if we get through the semi-finals of the League Cup and we finish where we're hoping we finish this season, whether that's like north of 8th and 7th, that's massive progress in itself already. Forget about the FA Cup. You get through, brilliant. But say we got through the semi-finals, got knocked out in the fourth round of the FA Cup and finished 6th, I would probably snap your hand off tomorrow, to be honest. So I mean, I know that's probably not the most optimistic, but I mean, to achieve something we haven't achieved in over 40 years. It's that would be big. But hopefully we get to have our cake and eat it too, which is the stupidest saying I've ever heard in my life. What else are you going to do with cake? You're going to eat it.
You definitely are. I mean, no one likes mouldy cake.
No, definitely.
Daryl, would you agree with all that? Do you think a kind of a semi-final or a quarter-final in the FA Cup is a good result, or do you want more?
No, absolutely. The only thing that bothers me about it all is I just don't want to see we get embarrassed by somebody from a lower division. We've had that too often recently. You only have to look back as last season at Cambridge United to see that. So go as far as we can. If we get knocked out in maybe the 5th or the 6th round by a club in and around us in the league or whatever, then I could probably accept that. I just don't want to get embarrassed or humbled by anybody from the lower division. I think we're beyond that now. I think Eddie's going to set us up properly and we'll approach these games and do a professional job. I just don't want to see we get upset. And we'll be fortunate, actually, because we've got Chelsea and Man City playing each other in this round. There's another couple of all Premier League ties, so it's going to set up quite nicely. And to see Man City and Chelsea going head-to-head already means there's an early exit for one of the big boys coming up.
Yes, like I said, we will see that all unfold this weekend. So fingers crossed, we'll get through, and then we'll get a nice home draw for the 4th round that everyone can attend. Apart from myself, of course, unless it's one of the weekends where I'm in the UK.
Thanks, we're going to draw Ajax. So
that is my Champions League dream. I cannot wait for us to be Champions League, and we'll get Ajax in the group, and I get to go and see a game at the Johan Cruyff Arena. That would be very, very nice. But we'll see what happens. I'll probably have to sit in the away end because there were some crazy laws over here with English fans that they don't let you in the home side. But we'll see what happens.
Oh, well.
Thanks, lads. Really enjoyed this one. Hopefully we go into this game full of confidence, which I think we will, and we'll get a result. Thanks, everybody, for watching. If you like this sort of content, you know what to do. Scroll down from this video, hit the little thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button. And if you want to be notified when we get more videos out, hit the little bell icon as well. And that'll do everything that you can do to help this channel grow on YouTube. And if you listen to this on the podcast, just give us a 5-star rating. That also helps. That's really, really nice of you as well. And there's one more thing. If you want to go one step further, you can become a member of the Gallowgateshots. And that is only $2.99 a month. That gives you early access to videos, exclusive access to certain videos, as well as access to the Telegram group, which last night there were so many Arsenal memes going around in that group. It was hilarious. And today, a lot of talk about Arsenal fans, which we will not bring up on this channel just yet because we want thumbs up, not thumbs down. Maybe we'll do another video on that sometime in the future. But thanks very much, everyone, for watching. We'll see you in the next one. And how about let's get a cup run, lads, shall we?
Well, yeah,
please.
let's go for it.
Yes, please.
Yes, please, sir.
That would be nice.
Yes,
Yes. See you, everybody.
Cheers, everybody. Bye-bye.
Cheers all.